It is Wednesday today, and because of a little snafu, we are not podcasting on a Tuesday as we usually do. My name is Chris Mary Hoffman. With me, I have the ever-present Nick E. Anderson, and this is the Wrestling Guild. So, Nick, we had a little issue. We were supposed to, on Tuesday, we were supposed to actually review Penta Does Iowa, but somebody felt like reviewing Cali Combat instead.
Just somehow, I don't know. No, but it was complicated.
I know. The Twitch isn't all that. I mean, it could be. I guess it's difficult to navigate sometimes. And I mean, really, Twitch is really a live service. I mean, a live streaming service. So it's actually probably better if you. But we'll do Penta Does Iowa. I think we talked about doing it next week. We'll probably do, and we'll do Cali Combat on Friday. I've started watching Cali Combat. Yeah, I saw the first match. I've seen part of the first match.
It's pretty good.
Ringer versus Luster the Legend. So.
Pretty good.
I think the fun thing about those things are message for you. Popular. The one thing that I like with these, especially the one night only, is I mean I do like it with the Twitch too, although the camera work isn't as good, obviously because it's live streaming. But is that you get to see a lot of new wrestlers that you haven't seen before, and a lot of wrestlers get a lot of opportunities.
Absolutely, yeah. So. No, I mean the Twitch thing is absolutely something they should still keep going with.
Yeah.
I mean I like it.
So, we're going to talk about Impact Wrestling from the 10th of May. We're well into May now. Yep. We had a cold, not a cold open, we had an open with Josh Matthews by himself. We talked about that he was by himself in front of the command center.
Well, quite interesting. I mean, I thought, if he's going to stand there, he would take it with him. It's like commentator buddy, but no,
because Don Callis isn't there. They showed footage what happened between Don Callis and Sami Callihan in Toronto. Don Callis was there at an awards show, getting an award for like best return or something like that, comeback. Sami Callihan just like attacks him, beats him to a bloody pulp, and then they're kind of like the officials are deciding on Sami Callihan's future. I think they're playing this very, very well.
I think the storyline is the best one
that
we've had. I don't know, it's so interesting and it feels so real for some reason.
They've really done well on this one. We had a little bit like the Eli Drake vignette from his Feast or Fired win and how he got the cases and stuff like that. So that was kind of interesting. And that his main event today, or for the show, was that he is challenging Pentagon Jr.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going for the top.
Yeah, he's going for the top, which as he should.
As he should.
As he should. Anyway, and then we had our first match. So it took a while, not as long as last week, but it took a while before we got our first match. It was Z and E, the newly formed team of DJ Z and Andrew Everett versus LAX. How did you like this?
I think it was a crazy match. I liked it. I mean, we have LAX back. That's always good. But it was, fast-paced. It was hard-hitting to some extent. That's not really usual. I mean, they're not like the big they're not on that level where you have the big dudes and whatnot, so I'm not expecting that. But I think it was a great performance from DJ Z.
Yeah, and Andrew Everett. I think, as I said, I'm really getting back into Andrew Everett. I saw him briefly, like in Evolve, and I thought, this is a kind of cool guy. But I think he's kind of gotten like re-energized. Maybe it was good that he was gone for a while. Maybe the fact that he was with Trevor Lee was kind of hurting him a little bit. I don't know. But this is definitely where he's at best. Z&E did win the match with a counter for the Street Sweeper. Very nicely done.
Especially on LAX.
Yeah. And this is just kind of continues to play in that LAX is, they're on the losing streak, and we'll see what happens.
We see what happens.
Also interesting to talk about is that Josh Matthews kept talking about that it was scary to be in Impact right now because of the attacks backstage, Sami Callihan, all of that stuff. So that was something that they were playing up. Then your boy,
my boy, Mr. Grado.
Yes, Mr. Grado was there. And Joseph, that was kind of, I mean, it was fun. I mean, Joseph Park was warming Grado up, and Joseph wasn't sure that Grado had a girlfriend.
And then she just
yes, Katarina, or what he's called her something. Grado said something. He pronounced it really strange.
Girlfriend.
Yes, my girlfriend. Of course, that was Katarina. I think she used to be Katarina Burchill in the WWE, but she was in Impact once upon a time under the name Winter. Former Knockouts champion, actually.
So yeah, Winter. And Park wasn't really too happy.
No, he didn't like it. He jealous. Yeah, it was. She called her she called him Jace. She's like, no bye, Jason. He's just like, my name's Joseph. Anyway, this again. Actually, this was what I liked about this match. Was like all these in between things were really good.
Really good.
And they in every way. And we'll get back to that later. Yeah. Then we had a match. It was Rohit Raju versus... No, we haven't seen him in a while. Last time I think we saw him at like a Twitch or a One Night Only or something like that. Rohit Raju versus Grado. Grado had new music.
Yeah, and he just wears like a shirt. Just
no. Well, he has a fanny. He had a fanny pack too. But yeah, no. That's the way he is. That's his deal. I mean, it's funny because, Grado, wrestling has allowed Grado to... You know that interview that you heard with Grado on The Art of Wrestling called Cabana, where he interviews him for the first time when he sings, and he actually talks about Sanjay Dutt and stuff like that? You remember we listened to that? That was like in the early days of Grado. He became famous through a documentary by Vice, which kind of was about Scottish wrestling, and he was part of it. And then from there he just got like mega indie fame, and he's like actually he has like he's like in some comedy show in Scotland called like Scotland PD or something like that, and he's been in plays and he does everything, soap operas.
I mean, look at him. He's funny though.
Yeah, he's a funny guy, and I think Impact did really well picking him up. Even if they haven't always used him in the best way, even if he's kind of in the comedy role, at least I think it's good because it gets people interested in Impact that want to follow Grado, and I think that is probably the best thing you can do for Impact Wrestling is to kind of focus on certain wrestlers that people are going to follow. I think a lot of people became interested when Brian Cage came into the company because it was Brian Cage, and they might have known of him from his days in Lucha Underground and in other promotions, and then kind of seeing what he can do. And now Rich Swann was announced that he's going to be on the tapings on June 1st and 2nd. And he's a former cruiserweight champion in the WWE. He's like one of the best friends of Sami Callihan. But you know that because you listened to the interview with Sami Callihan and Rich Swann as well.
No, but the thing is, I guess Impact are doing really great then because they're picking these people up.
And which was always something that I thought that they should have done a long time ago. And if they had done that, they would have picked up. I think they would have picked up a lot of other wrestlers like Johnny Gargano and many other, and Rich Swann at an earlier stage, and Ricochet and stuff like that, people that are really big. Anyway, so the Rohit Raju Grado match was, I mean, decent. It was a little bit what it was. I don't think that the styles of Grado and Rohit Raju really sync, and I mean part of it is, and I'm sad to say that, but part of it is that I'm just not really getting into Rohit Raju.
No, he's okay.
He's okay. Maybe he's better, but he's getting better. But I find him kind of dull.
I guess his character is not really that interesting either. I mean,
no. Yeah. And they keep talking about the Desi Hit Squad and Gama Singh, but we have yet to see. Every time they've had the Desi Hit Squad on like One Night Only or on Twitch, Gama Singh is never there. So they keep talking about when's he showing up. So right now the Desi Hit Squad is kind of like, we haven't seen Desi Hit Squad on Impact yet, have we?
No, we haven't, right? No. So I mean, I don't know. It's
anyway.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, Rawhead, he dominates, like, in the beginning of the match. He takes down Grado. Grado seems to be out of shape, but has he ever been in shape?
No, that's his shape. That's his shape. If you follow him on Instagram, every single day is cheat day, because it just says cheat day and just a bunch of pictures of him eating food.
So, I mean, in the beginning, but then somehow he loses it in the end, and Grado takes over.
Yes, Grado wins with a cannonball, and then he makes out with Katarina. We should all be that lucky. Anyway, and then there's another attack in the back. Joseph Park has been taken out, and Grado is, of course, beside himself.
He's panicking.
Yes.
Get a doctor. Screaming like...
So nobody else cared about the other people that were taken out.
So, yeah.
Yeah, then we had a vignette for Tessa Blanchard. That was kind of good, because then we can kind of... I mean, it was good in the fact that we get to know a little bit about her. You know, she talked about her history, her family history, stuff like that. So that,
yeah, sure.
so it kind of gets, because we want to be interested in her, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Then we had an interview with Scott Steiner and Eli Drake.
Yeah, Eli is just gonna cash it in all, and just gonna go to the top. And Scott.
And Steiner says that he has Drake's back, but Drake doesn't want his help. And that made me think that Steiner was going to show up in the match later. And kind of he was gonna he was gonna screw it up for Drake, trying to help. But I mean, Steiner wasn't there, so I don't know where this storyline is going.
I don't know.
We'll see. Then we had probably one. I mean, I thought that the Z&E versus LAX was probably the best match of the evening. But even the Drago versus Aerostar versus Phantasma versus Ishimori was a really good match.
It was an awesome match. I enjoyed it a lot. Fast-paced, hard-hitting, high-flying, and especially Aerostar. I mean, that guy is...
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I think you could say that the X Division is back for reals this time. And because they've been trying to do a lot of things with the X Division once a lot of the X Division stars kind of were let go. I mean, if you look at... Because after you have a GWN moment of the week, or match of the week, where you see... And none of those guys are in the company anymore, except for Suicide. But the guy who played Suicide in in that match, he's not in the company anymore. So I mean, none of them. I mean, you think of like the X Division roster was really deep once upon a time, and they could put on really awesome matches. But now it's so anyway, excellent match. Phantasma hits the thrill of the kill on Aerostar. We were talking about because we watched it together, and we were talking about how. Aerostar, he supposedly gets injured sometime during these tapings, but I said it always seems like Aerostar gets injured.
No, but it was a good match, and somehow Phantasma won, but at the same time, he wasn't bad at all.
No, so he will be challenging for the X Division title against Matt Sydal, which will be a good match. Next, we had Eddie crashing the meeting. And the thing is, we only hear Don Callis and Scott D'Amore. We don't actually get to see them. I'm wondering if they were there or if they had just like taped them.
Yeah. No, but I mean, Eddie wants Callihan fired.
No, he does not want him fired.
He does not want.
No, it's Scott D'Amore and Don Callis have said that they already decided that he's going to get fired, but Eddie says no, keep him because I want to take him out. He says I deserve this. Because you owe me, because he always took out my eye. I did that for you. You threw in the towel at Lucha Underground versus Impact, which I didn't ask you to do.
Then they say like, don't do it here. Just do it outside of Impact. Don't get shit down.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it's announced later that it'll be a House of Hardcore. That they're going to tape it, a street fight, and that it's going to be on the show this Thursday.
Eddie and Callihan, I've never really been interested in Eddie, but I have been interested in Callihan. But now this storyline is wow.
So that's to look forward to this Thursday. Moose versus Congo Kong at the House of Hardcore in Indiana, I think it was. It was actually not much happened. It was
an interesting match, and then we have some big dudes. You know, it's in the same level and whatnot. But yeah,
I don't think it's really time to beat. I mean, the thing is, if if they're pushing Moose, if it's the year of the Moose, he can't get beaten by Congo Kong fair and square, and you can't really defeat Congo Kong yet
because that would
you defeat the purpose of what they're building him up to. So Jimmy Jacobs interferes by hitting Moose with a chair. Moose doesn't care. It attacks. He attacks Jacobs. Kong gets involved, but Moose gets the better of them, and they leave.
Yeah. Did you see how he knocked out Congo?
Yeah.
And he fell on his feet again.
Yeah.
That was funny.
And then came another fun vignette, which was KM and Falaba training together.
That stuff is gold. Like, I already watched it on YouTube.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, so I've already seen that, but now second time I was still laughing. It's basically Falaba like trying to get in shape while
and I'm kind of wondering if that's what's going to happen. I mean, wondering if he's trying to get into shape, so because I don't know if it was just because of what they were doing, but to me it kind of looked like he was a little slimmer.
I mean, it would be pretty cool if he could actually change his body just because of Impact. That would be really cool, but I don't know, having
because they were talking about that KM had slimmed down last week. They talked about that he had dropped like 20 pounds or something like that. So I mean,
because he was eating cookies.
Yeah, he was
driving his golf cart.
Yeah, so it was a classic 1980s training montage, and Falaba just running up downstairs, running out. It was fun. It was a good time. You watch it on YouTube, I guess. It was fun. We'll see where that goes. Brian Cage in Pro Wrestling Noah continuing his world tour against Takashi Segura. This was a pretty hard hitting match.
It was hard hitting, but at the same time, Cage doesn't really have it's too easy for him. It was easy for him here as well.
Yeah.
He
but what are you gonna do with him though?
You gotta find the best of the best. Maybe Alberto.
You just want Alberto. He's not coming back.
No, but don't you think so? We need someone that really could give him some.
Well, I mean, it is difficult because there's nobody that looks like Cage out there, really. I mean, there's Bobby Lashley and stuff like that, but I mean, and there are other Brock Lesnar and stuff like that, but they're in the WWE, so what are you going to do? But yeah, no, maybe somebody else. But no, I thought that this was good for what it was. Segura kicked out of several of Cage's finishers. But Cage wins with the drill claw, like he should. They're still pushing him to be, and I think that they're just pushing him right now as like the big thing, undefeated. I don't know when they're going to decide to defeat him or anything like that, but we'll see. I don't know if they have a plan for that. GWN moment, Ultimate X from Destination X. The X Division title was in the balance. It was Consequences Creed versus Suicide versus Jay Lethal versus Chris Sabin versus Alex Shelley. Here it was interesting because Jay Lethal and Consequences Creed were a tag team, and Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley were a tag team. So Suicide was kind of in the middle of the whole thing.
Yeah, because he was taking down everyone and he jumped from the ropes. It was beautiful. That was nice. They
use that clip a lot.
Yeah,
when he jumps from. There was a different, because I don't know, there was an Ultimate X match, and then there was another X Division, like a type of Ultimate X match. I don't know if they were different, but like the week before when we saw with Sanjay Dutt and DJZ, there was an X above the ropes as well. I think that was a different type of structure, and I think they might have called it something else, but I don't know. But this one that they didn't, and Suicide jumped from one of those pillars onto the X in the middle. It was awesome.
It was
and he won. I don't think this was the first time he had won the title. I don't know. I don't remember, but anyway, Suicide won. It was a good match. Then we had Allie remembering Rosemary getting, and then what happened? This crap happened.
That was fudged up. That was scary. I don't get scared, but that was weird.
Yeah. So Allie's sitting there. She's feeling sad because Rosemary is dead or something. Yeah. I don't know if she's dead, but she's gone at least. Yeah. And then there's a knock on the door to her dressing room. She opens. There's a voodoo doll with a big pin stuck in it with a message, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, she opened it.
Yeah, and then she looked really weird. Like she's getting possessed. Yeah. Is it going to be Rosemary?
Rosemary. Yeah, it was, but that's what I'm saying. And the music was really bad. And
Evil. It was evil.
It was evil.
Yeah.
Okay, it was evil.
Bad. Then it sucked.
It was, it was scary. Yeah, so that was interesting. So I don't know that's going to further the storyline.
Well, they're going to have like it was announced that on Thursday they're going to have like the funeral for Rosemary. Sue Young is going to have like a funeral thing. So we'll see what happens. It'll be interesting.
Okay.
And then we had the main event, World Championship match, Eli Drake versus Pentagon Jr. Yeah. What did you say? What do you say? How did you like this?
Awesome match. I mean, both on the same level, working really well together. And hard-hitting, a serious match, not high-flying to some extent, not really.
No, not very high-flying actually. And you notice that when you watch this match, because we've generally only seen Pentagon, at least at Impact, we've only seen Pentagon in those three-way matches. We haven't. Well, we saw Jimmy Jacobs. Well, you didn't see it, but the Jimmy Jacobs match on Twitch. But he isn't so high-flying.
Okay. He just doesn't.
I think he can, but he doesn't. I mean, I think when we saw the three-way with him and Phoenix and Austin Aries, it was Phoenix that really did most of the high-flying moves. Like the real high-flying moves, like these advanced, like Aerostar style. Pentagon doesn't really do. He doesn't do that, and I don't know if he. I mean, why? But it's just not his thing.
I mean, it's not like he needs it, because I mean, he's really good by himself, and he is hard-hitting, and he has good moves, so he crushes people. But if he could, combine that with high-flying, another level. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy about the match. I think it was good. It was long as well, so we had a lot of time to watch it and just melt it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So how did you like this show in the end?
Final grade. I'll give it like most probably a BB minus just because of Grado. Really good performance.
And Falaba and KF.
KF. Those guys, gold.
Yeah, I'll go for a B minus. I think just to not like do too much. Yeah, that was good. Well, Nick, another showdown.
Yeah.
Boom. And yeah, follow us on YouTube, on Twitter, on all kinds of social media, Facebook and what have you. Yeah, and we'll return on Friday to talk about the Cali Combat, right?
Boom. Yeah.
Boom,
Easy
diggy
as that.
boom. Yeah, easy as pie. My name is Chris Mary Holtman. With me, I have Nick Anderson, the man with the plan. Exactly, and we'll talk to you next week or on Friday.
Boom.
Boom.